It's the end of Yokohama ProQuest season, and something fun just happened in the breakdown. So let's look at it, and that's the wrong screen. I'll hit this button and then it will be the right screen. Will I leave that in? Probably, because I am just not bothered to go back and do that again. Hey, so for those that don't know, Casai was tied for the third most points, the third most ProQuest wins this past weekend. And again, for those that don't know, I love Casai. She is currently my favorite classic constructed hero in the game, a period, end of story. And I'll be honest with you, I have probably felt that way ever since she actually released. Maybe about 2 weeks after Heavy Hitters came out and I was back from New Zealand, I was playing Casai, and I took her to ProQuests and had a blast playing her. And just for a moment when Mistvale came out, I had to put her down because she just didn't exist, and I picked Kano back up, and I loved that deck. And then Kano lost all his tomes, and now I'm really sad about that deck. And Kasai's here. Casai is here to assuage my grief. And I can now play Casai again because she's so cool. She is the original pirate. And today I want to share something with you. I'll peel back the curtain a little bit, but I'll share it with you as well. Today we're going to show off my Casai list. I want to share with you where I've gotten Casai to and why I've made the choices that I have. So let's go ahead and talk about my version of mid-range aggro Casai. So here it is. This is what I've been playing around with ever since I made that Casai video over like a year ago. I've been iterating on this style of a deck list that leans into some attack reactions that you may recognize, maybe you don't recognize, but Stroke of Foresight, of course, and Iron Song Response alongside of, like some In the Swings, and of course Blade Flurry. But the main driving force behind this deck and why I have it built the way that I have it is this. Draw Swords Casai changed the way that this hero was approached. For those that don't know, Draw Swords Casai is an aggressive version of the deck. Let me see if I can pull it up. If I go to public deck lists, and then I just find any Casai list ever. That's not the button, it's this one. If I just go here and I pull up Classic Constructed and then I choose Casai of the Golden Sand, most of these lists are Draw Swords Casai. This one is like one of the only ones that isn't. I think the rest, well, not the rest, but most of them are this type or this variant of list. And Draw Swords Casai is super cool. Draw Swords is a very powerful card that allows you to get like way more value than you would think at the expense of pitching a blue. Now, the danger in this, or the difficulty in this, is that the Casai is a hero that wants to focus on yellows and reds so that she can actually use the hero effect printed on her card to gain gold tokens, and then you get value almost like your own Draw Swords out of cracking gold and generating resources. But for those that don't know Draw Swords, if you can pay a blue into this, it essentially gives you a +3 pre-buff, and it nets you back 2 resources. We'll just basically say it that way. Because assuming that you have Go Again in some way, shape, or form, Draw Swords allows you to draw into that Go Again and then not have to pay for your swords. So if you're looking at just the stats on the face of it, it's a card that replaces itself, but it's also giving you three value in a pre-buff and 2 resources in value. So if you want to say it's like a 5 value card, a 3 for 5, but then it's a card that gives itself back to you. So it's like a 3 for 8 in that way. If a card is valued at 3, and most cards in Casai I think are actually valued a little over 3, you can look at red Draw Swords as like a 3 for 8 because it's giving you 3 value from the card that you get, it's giving you 3 attack, it's giving you 2 resources because you can then swing after it. So very powerful card. That's why people are also running the yellows and building a very aggressive core around this. And I agree with a lot of what we see on, in this list. But the one thing that I have struggled with this type of list is running into the issue of being at the end of the game and drawing one too many Draw Swords in a hand, or not having access to easy Go Again, and you fall into this little fiddly area wherein you have to keep specific cards in order to swing twice with a turn, or on a turn with a weapon, and allow yourself to either reset Valiant Dynamos or just to present lethal. And if you don't, then you're just kind of down in the exchange back and forth and you've lost tempo. And this can happen by drawing draw swords too many times. It can happen by drawing like a couple of these other kind of cards that you see pretty often, like Sharpened Senses. Technically, this is not a go again card unless you keep a pre-buff and then throw it down, because it's asking for greater than twice its base. So you almost need to keep like multiple cards, and of course have banked up resources on Grains of Bloodspill. So the deck is very powerful on the front foot. It's not the fastest aggro deck in the world, but it's very powerful on the front foot if you're dictating pace. But at the end of the game, if it's like sub 10 life for both players, you run into the issue where you don't have the flexibility to play out a hand in a specific way that you could definitely see you winning the exchange and winning the tempo battle over the next 2 turns. And so I have taken, over the course of, I don't know, 6 months or so, maybe less than 6 months. No, actually probably 6 months at this point. I've taken a bunch of different lists. I've tried them all. I've iterated on my own personal list, and I've come up with most of the same core with a couple of changes, with the hope that we can shore up the issue that you run into with not having go again at the right time, and the giving you the same amount of power in a lot of instances to be able to play out these very aggressive turns, while also insulating yourself from losing go again and insulating your hand from like a bunch of uncomfortable 2 blocks or 0 blocks, which does sometimes happen depending on how you've built the deck. This one that we're looking at, not so much, because it's full of all the good 3 blocks that you would like to see, minus Gorganian Tome. So what does this deck look like differently? Well, I am still heavily into Blade Runner. I'm running all 9 copies, and more importantly, it's very important that we lean into and discuss how many go again sources are in this list. I never want to have a hand without a go again source, and if I do, I want to not know, but basically feel as though I can draw one off the top at any point. And I have overloaded on go again sources. Maybe you could even argue to my own detriment, but we'll count it out. You ready? We have 9 go again sources here, then up to 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30 right here, 32 go again sources. 32 is a whole stinking lot of go again. In fact, most decks run like 24 to 27, and we've pushed over the top. But a lot of the go again sources that we've added over other deck lists are go again sources that also provide a buff, like Blade Runner, which is why I'm still heavy on this card, because this card is go again, and it's also +2 or +3 or heck, even +1, right? It's go again plus a buff. So this list is designed to be fundamentally aggressive and allow you to build very quickly to a Blood on Her Hands turn, which is sort of the kind of the finisher, the combo finisher that is so cool about Casai. And also giving you the tools that you need into a variety of the deck lists that we have in the meta right now. And this is why I'm so in love with this hero. I think she's the most flexible hero in Flesh and Blood right now. And I don't know, maybe there's some argument that there's a couple of other heroes that have the same feeling, but I can't think of anyone that feels as flexible or as open to build as Casai. Like, heck, Casai in the Axes variant won a pro quest. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's pretty cool that she's this flexible. And so here's the way that I've found to make her work for me. I have 2 draw swords, the reds. I am okay with 2. You could honestly go up to 3 and cut something else, but I'm happy with 2. And it has felt good when it's good, and I don't draw multiples ever because there's only 2. So I'm not running the yellows, and in place of the yellows, I have yellow slice and dice. Why yellow slice and dice? It's a 0 for 3, it pitches for yellow, it costs you nothing to play, and most of the time what we're trying to do with this version of the list is 1, be very aggressive with our cards, and 2, be very aggressive with our Grains of Blood Spill paying into to float over activations. That's what we want. We want to float over our Grains of Blood Spill activations, these Vigor tokens, so that we can load up and smack into our opponents. We want to be aggressive with our vigor generation and also with our gold activation. So this list has more yellows that we bring in than most other lists as well. Like if we're comparing it to this ProQuest Yokohama 2 list, this has in a 60 card main board, this has 19 yellows, 22 reds, 18 blues, and of course these numbers play around with, but as you can see in the sideboard, you're bringing in reds, and most of the Kasai lists out there are the same way. In the main board of 54 cards, I oftentimes bring in 5 to 7 yellows, pushing our number up to 21 yellows. And then sometimes, depending on the matchup, we'll bring in Take It on the Chins, or we'll bring in Iron Song Response and Stroke of Foresight, pushes our red count up. And we fat deck into most lists, unless this is hyper aggro and it's a race. In that case, we try to trim to exactly 60, and we cut the Riches of Tropple Donny. But in any case, we are looking to play like 64 cards into every matchup, and include more yellows than most lists do in their entire board, period, end of story. Because we want to activate Kasai as often, well, early too, as early and as often as possible, so that we can start using the inherent value of pitching a blue into a gold to net us more cards and virtual resources than any other hero can do. That's, I think, where Kasai really shines in this current meta, is she is breaking the rules of resource generation and card generation. She's playing with virtual 5-card hands if you play her this way, but of course you need to hit in order to do that, and you need to have like multiple sword swings in order to more likely hit on a turn. So understanding all of that, and then also packing in the fact that you want a bunch of 3 blocks and a bunch of just cards that can insulate you, and you want redundancy built into the deck, I've come to this point with 32 sources of Go again. A lot of the ones you would expect. I really like Provoke as well in there as a blue. I have extra Slice and Dices, extra Outland Skirmishes. The Outland Skirmish yellow is fantastic. I do not run and I do not like Sharpened Senses. I'm not a fan of this card, simply because you do have to kind of work around it in order for it to function, and it doesn't go to the graveyard when you play it, meaning you can't activate gold or Kasai off of it to generate a gold as quickly and effectively by playing the card until the following turn. So I'm not a big fan of that card, and I would much rather run Outland Skirmish yellow. I don't run as many draw swords because, as I said before, sometimes they gum up your hand. This is how my list differs. Now, how successful has this list been for me? If we're looking at Talishar testing, this list has been rather successful for me. I've played 88 matches on this list alone with really very minimal changes. In fact, so little changes, I haven't even made a version of the deck like I normally do with some of my other deck lists. We have a negative win rate going first. We always in this deck choose to go second. It is, regardless of what matchup we're into, we choose to go second in this if we can, and if we're placed second, we're way happier. And in doing so, we oftentimes want to just throw our hand at our opponent so that we can fill our graveyard with yellows and reds, so that we can immediately start, as soon as we can, popping the hero effect on Kasai and actually firing it off. And when we are allowed to go second, we have a 78% win rate. Now, what have we faced? A lot of Syndra. Why do I like Kasai so much right now? Because she, if played in this way, in a very insulated 3-block heavy and prevention heavy way, including That All You Got and things like that, if you play her this way, she can do quite well in this matchup. Now, again, you can take Talishar data for what it is, and I will tell you, I have put off making this video for over a month at this point. Over a month ago, I sat down and recorded like 3 hours worth of a metafied deck list and guide for this deck list and for this hero, including some other things. In fact, I made like an encyclopedia of Kasai, and I have, I've avoided putting this out there because of imposter syndrome, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are going to look at this and just kind of brush it off and say, oh, that's just a content creator. What do they know? And you know what? I could definitely be that, right? Like this data is all me playing these games, but maybe I just played against scrubs. And if that's the case, so be it. But, it has a winning win rate, as you say, into Syndra as a 5 and 3. It has a solid win rate into KO, Armed and Dangerous. In fact, this one has gone back and forth. For a while, it was positive. Now it's leveled out because I think people are continuing to get better on the new KO, Armed and Dangerous cards in the deck list, the way it's built. It has a positive win rate into the KO Underhanded Cheat. This was a tough matchup to crack at first, but a lot of thinking about the matchup and then playing it out the way that you game plan, it's actually turned it in our favor, like so far. I mean, based on these small numbers. And then we've got a positive win rate into Verdance. In fact, it is a 3-0 win rate into Verdance. And a lot of people look at this and go, how in the hell are you beating Verdance? And the answer is that all of our cards are at or above rate and value. That's something we haven't talked about, but this is a 0 for 4 split across 2 attacks that your opponent can't predict until it's already played and they've already committed to blocks, and then you can arsenal it if they commit correctly. These are go against sources plus a pre-buff. So if you want to call this like 4 value, you can, because it's a +3 and go again. Maybe you give go again like a 1-point value. But honestly, if we're talking like virtual value, you get more value out of the go again in Warrior, giving it to your weapons, than just about any other class, because it enables so much more. It enables like a second Grains of Blood spill activation if your opponent isn't blocking. So this card can actually be like way more value. Draw Swords, we already talked about the value inherent in that card. A 0 for 3, I mean, it's just a 0 for 3, so it is what it is. But a 0 for 3 that also enables a Blood on Your Hands turn. This is really more like a 0 for 4 because your opponent has to respect copper. A 0 for 2, that's really a 0 for 3. 0 for 4, a 0 for 3, and it pitches for yellow and it blocks 3. All of these cards have blocked 3 so far, by the way. This card's insane. It's like a 0 for 4 if you want to. It's only a +2 buff and go again, so it's like a value is 3, but 2 copper. So like you can value the copper at half a point each. But coppers are so good because Blood on Our Hands is so good in this deck. Unsheathed is crazy. Like all of these cards. The new Blood Follows Blade fits so perfectly into this style of deck where you're very capable of playing defensively, capable of keeping everything in front of you, but also able to just kind of explode out of nowhere. This card's perfect because you throw it on the second sword swing and you just call it a day and you have yourself a little guy that your opponent never expected because they weren't going to block the second swing anyway. Riches is super necessary, I think. I think you do definitely need this card if you're playing like at the highest levels. If you aren't playing at the highest levels, then that's fine, I guess. But creating a gold on demand, especially early in the game, is very solid. And in longer games, this is like so great. And then 0 for 2, which is technically underrated, but if you count the go again, it's like a 0 for 3. Draws you a card, nets you 2 resources, gives go again. So it's like a virtual like 4 value card when you play this, like this great arsenal target. And the rest of these cards are glue pieces. Blue block 3, blue block 3, costs 1 though, but gives you piercing. But I don't know, this is like the most cuttable card in the list, I think. In my opinion, I would remove this one perhaps. 0 for whatever, go again as blue block 3. And then this one can be key in certain matchups. And then, of course, in your sideboard, at this point, Raise an Army, actually, I've dropped to 2 because we have other ways of creating these guys, but it's great into slower matchups. And then you have a ton of space to just play prevent defense, like all brutes, anyone that, Cilio, anyone that draws 2 cards on a turn, Dash IO, you just run this for slower matchups, this for exactly Syndra. I'm literally just playing this into Syndra. I don't play the Kabuto. I don't play Kabuto anymore, and I don't care to play Kabuto into mirror matches and into Syndra, because if they expect you to play Kabuto, then they're going to either board differently or play the matchup in a specific way. When they see that you're not playing Kabuto, they're going to think, I don't have to worry about that. But then you just go very fast and do lots of damage and put down just massive turns, and your opponent's like, oh, shoot, okay. It didn't matter that they didn't have Kabuto. They weren't planning on blocking me out this turn anyway. They're just going to hit me for 21, 22. How are you doing that? Because this card's cracked, okay? Like, that's the secret, is that a couple of extra attack reactions and then thinking very aggressively, not necessarily leaning just on Draw Swords to do that, but also recognizing that these pre-buffs or these attack reactions that buff are buffs in and of themselves. That is the key. And do keep this in mind as well. When playing this style of list, sometimes the correct answer is off of like an agility token created on Take It on the Chin to still just pay for the Blade Runner Red. Pay the 1 resource because you're paying 1 to put +3 on your second swing and your opponent's going to lose 3 extra life. Sometimes these go again sources are really just +2 and +3 graveyard fill that allows you to activate Kasai and get another gold and then go up virtual cards. So there's a definite way that this probably pisses some people off about how you play this deck and how you play Kasai in general. But man, have I enjoyed it. And the imposter syndrome was finally defeated because I at least recorded this, me gushing about my favorite deck in this current format. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this rambling deck discussion style video. If you want me to talk about other decks that I'm in love with, maybe Silver Age stuff, or, you know, saying farewell in Blitz, let me know that in a comment below. And of course, if this is something that you enjoy, make the number go to the other number. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.